don't know how many times I tried to find something, whether it be on the internet, whether it be in the store, or however you go about finding things that you collect that you look forward to getting, but you just can't get your hands on them. And today I'm here to talk to you about Scalping 101, who pays the late tax. And I'm going to talk about pluses, minuses of scalping, and yes, there are a handful of pluses to this whole scalping deal. I'm also going to define scalping, and we're going to get into discussing this, and then we're going to discuss at the end of this, I am going to talk about crowdfunded alleged scalping. So let's get right into this, and I want to start by talking about fans' toys and the other items that are usually sold out and sell at a high price with a late tax. So we find that Bad Cube Grump here, it's a mini bot. He's like a $60 figure, and I know that for a while he was fetching 150, he got re-released, and now he's probably going back up in price now that all the distributors are sold out. Same thing with their Huffer, same thing with pretty much everything fans toys. The Dinobots, if there's not a recent re-release. Quietest just came out like 8 months ago and was fetching double, triple the price until the re-release was announced. And then you also have their Tesla, you have Spotter. And I've done a video on all these that are really high-priced ones, but I'm kind of getting the mindset in there. You know, even when you look at Hasbro, and they put out a $125 Titan Metroplex, and that thing was selling for $400 for a long time on the secondary market. So let's get into discussing, are these people selling these items for a higher price scalpers? Let's look at this. So the informal definition is to resell tickets or merchandise at a higher price than the official rates. There it is. To buy or sell stocks, so to make small, quick profit. That's the other informal one. So scalping is to resell tickets or merchandise or etc. at higher than official rates. So how would you find out what a going rate of an item was? Well, let's see. Let's look at, let's say eBay. I think a lot of people do look at eBay and say that is how we decide the going rate of an item, how much an item is worth, and then that's kind of a pricing guidelines. And then a lot of times people selling to someone local or a friend or whatever gives them a much better deal than what you find on eBay, because those are probably the highest prices in the world if you're buying an item. But you can look and see here, there's a couple of yak faces. People are asking, upwards of 14, 15, 16,000 for them. And so the best way I find is to look at completeds. And when you look at the completed items and find out, well, what did they really sell for? This is the more valuable version of a yak face for those of you Transformer collectors. The coin in it is worth a ridiculous amount of money. The card back, it was only released in Canada, and it was probably at least a couple other places, but it was really packaged for Canada. And we never saw it in the U.S., and that's what makes this figure so rare. But is it scalping for somebody to ask $14,000 for a figure? And I don't think so, because it goes back to the definition that's the informal definition of to resell tickets or merchandise at a higher than official rates. So when something's vintage and out of production, been out of production for 40, 35 years, the going rate is the secondary market. And the secondary market is pretty much what people are willing to pay for it. And for me, that's eBay completeds. Seeing as how those two that I was showing you never had a completed listing, that's super ultra rare. So, I mean, it's a rare item. When you have rare items, they go through the roof because millions of people are all fighting for the same exact item. So how does this translate into, say, Transformer collecting, or even these SOC Voltrons that are coming out, and they come out for $300 and people they buy up multiples and try to sell them for $800. That's scalping. I mean, that's just pure out and out scalping. I'm going to spend $1,200 on these things, sell 2 of them, and make all my money back and then some, and still have 2, or sell all 4 of them. And that's the thing. So let's say you're a collector and you buy a second, and then you choose to sell yours. Well, you are scalping it. I've bought 3 or 4 of the same thing, and I did that with Soundwave. But see, the fact that I sold mine, what, 4 years, 5 years later, something like that, on my Soundwaves. And does that make me a scalper? Well, I mean, I guess people think that I am. But I bought them because I like having multiples of those tapes. I thought those tapes would be super awesome to have a couple of multiples and different displays, but I never opened more than just one. And so, with that, the going rate on this thing was like $330 when I was selling mine, and I was accepting like $250. So that was like a life experience here. I lived through that. So let's talk about the cons of scalping. So let's talk about the worst part of this. And what it really does is it inflates the price. Scalping takes something that's normally a $300 item, and in very short supply, for whatever reason, Bandai wants to make, 182 of these things, I guess. I don't know how many they're making of this. But something sells out in 28 minutes. Like, that's insane. And that's a pre-order, and then we're going to sit here and wait for it to come out. How does something sell out that fast? That's insane. Now, I've got 2 of them pre-ordered through some crazy site, thanks to a viewer that helped me out. We are definitely in this together, because I want one for sure, for me forever. I've got my Miracle Metalworks to put it next to, and there's no way on earth I would have paid $800 for one. I would have lived without. But this thing is awesome. Now, I gotta say, when I ordered my 2, I had the opportunity to order 12. I could order 12. I didn't order 12. But I know people, and I actually hear people on the internet talking about how they've pre-ordered, 4, 5, 6 of these, and pre-ordered them at multiple different places too. So like, hey, in case it falls through. That's actually not a bad idea. Order one here and one there, and if it falls through at one of them, you've definitely got yours. You don't have to pay that late tax that goes on there. But it does raise the price of these things. The other thing is when these people buy 4 at a time, and obviously they don't want 4 of these for themselves. Well, some people probably do. I guarantee there's people that do. But when they buy it all out, they're out of stock, and it goes out of stock 28 minutes. Now, that didn't happen with, let's say, Quietus. Quietus, now that figure stayed in stock for months when it originally was released. It was in stock for maybe 5 months, 4 or 5 months at everywhere. And then once it started selling out at the smaller places that sold it cheaper, and TF Source finally sold out, the eBay secondary market blew up to like $260 on it, and people are still asking like $210 or $215 for this guy. But when that happens, we see the out of stock on it, and the price goes up, we get a reissue. It happens occasionally. It's like, oh, thank God we get a reissue. You're gonna get a reissue of this. Well, that thing was up for 5 days. It took 5 days for that thing to sell out. A couple of smaller places started selling out first. And that's how you know. You know when the people with the best prices start selling out, then you know everyone's turning to the last resorts or the higher priced ones. And then when the highest priced one sells out, you know it's going to be hard to get. And that's the thing. This thing here, we had a lot of opportunity to get this. And I put a couple of videos out talking about it so everyone would know and nobody would have to feel bad about missing out. But then again, we may not have the $160 just sitting around waiting for something to get on a moment's notice of a reissue announced. The next thing I want to talk about is going to retail hunting. The old school retail hunt where you go into Walmart's, Target's, Gibson's, TG&Y's, all these great places. And when you go in there and the shelves are empty, what's worse than having empty shelves? Empty shelves are like, this stuff just sold out well, right? What's worse is having the same 2 or 3 lousy characters, but 15 of each of the lousy characters. And the good characters are missing because of scalping. And the most popular characters, or the ones that are going to sell well, are missing. That is a con. That's a negative to scalping. That's a reality that we live in. Now, I asked my wife what she thought the worst negative to scalpers or uh, collectors that buy multiples, and she said you get stuck with them, so they won't sell. And that's actually a very interesting point that she brought up. These scalpers, they might get stuck with something. Now, granted, people who know what they're doing are going to be able to flip it and sell it or whatever, and usually get their money back at the worst. But that is a situation that can happen. And I know that a lot of times we're collecting stuff, and then something better comes out, and here we are stuck with, say, someone bought out 30 Omnigonic spinouts because he thought this was going to be the next big thing, and stuck with them. Or sadly, someone gets shipped 4 or 5. But that is a truth. That's a reality. And when you go out on a limb and buy something and say, hey, let's speculate on this toy business, that's what scalpers are doing, then they could end up getting stuck with a lot of stuff. Let's talk about the pros to the scalping. Somebody has something available. It is available to you. Now, I can tell you that there are people in other countries, aside from the U.S., that don't have a Walmart getting this stuff in and a Target getting this stuff in. They can't go to Ross and get a $20 figure on clearance for $6 that's selling on eBay for $50. They don't have that opportunity. And a lot of times it's frustrating in collecting, because if you're collecting a mainline item, they don't hit the stores. The last wave usually never hits the stores. And unless you pre-order the entire case or you pay an inflated price online, you don't get it. And then if you don't get it when it comes out, you're paying the late tax on that. That late tax on something like a retail item is frustrating, but it's frustrating when you're paying double, triple, quadruple for that thing just because it never hit the stores. And it's not your fault as a collector. You didn't do it. And it's actually not the scalper's fault, but if you buy this thing for $6 and you ask even MSRP like $35 for it, or $25, $30, whatever. If you ask the MSRP, a lot of people are going to call you a scalper. Even if every other one on eBay is selling for $50. Now, I revealed that I've had a couple of these foragers and I let them go for $300. And I'm going to say one of the points that's a pro here is that I had this thing in my possession, in my collection, on my shelf. I gave collectors an opportunity to buy this when mine literally was the only one on eBay for a long time, whatever. And they bought it. They bought it, which was what the market price was. I made it available to them. The other option is, of course, you could do what I did, which when I got rid of that, I just got a cheaper version that I like a little bit less, but I live with it. But someone got what they wanted when the alternative was they couldn't have gotten what they wanted. So it makes items available. Like, I don't really think as a collector selling something at market price, I'm scalping. And the definition doesn't say that, but for some reason the community does. And I never understood that. So in the case of DACA Toys Chronos, that thing was selling for $400. So it was originally $160, went up to $400, and then once Phoenix came out, that thing dropped to like $60. Now it's, I think, back to original MSRP, or there really is no such thing as MSRP in the third-party world, but it's back up to what people were generally asking for it at release, which was 160, 150, 160, 175, right around that range. And I gotta say that I got mine for 60, so am I bad for buying it at market price at 60? I don't think so. And I think that taking advantage of the price when people are dumping it because of the new thing that's out, and there's 1,300 of them on eBay, or however many, that's the time to buy. Buy low, sell high. That's stock investing too. But in my case of Forager, when I sold my first one, I intended to never see one again. I was like, I'll never see one again. I'll just live with this bad cube set I had at the time. That was before I got the MMCs also. And lo and behold, I stumbled across another one like 2 months later, and I sold it right away too. I was like, well, I mean, if it's hot, people want it. I'll let someone have it. And the thing is, that's over a year ago. I've not seen another one since then in the wild, or unless it's on eBay for $300. So that's just the way the economy works. Now, and the other thing with scalpers is when you see clearance stuff, a lot of times scalpers or speculators will go and buy up the rest of the clearance items so that down the road they sell them for MSRP and make double, triple, quadruple their money, whatever. And I don't see that as a bad thing. That's a good thing for the scalpers or the speculative buyers that are out there. But now let's talk about HasLab. Now, my question with HasLab, is it truly possible to be a scalper buying a crowdfunding item? So let's put this in perspective. They've crowdfunded a few things, starting with the sell barge. Now, I have read in the forums people talking about how they have had 13 or 14. One dude had 13 or something, sold all but one or two, something like that, and made quite a bit of money off of it because he sold each one of them for like $1,200 to $1,500 each, and he did good on it, right? He's a scalper. Is he a scalper? Well, how can you be a scalper if you're buying something and you put your money on it and let it sit for a year, but you're buying something that everybody else could have bought? Now they go, okay, no. International buyers couldn't have. And the international buyers got 400. So you had what? 2 million people fighting over 400 of these, and they sold out in a day, or not even a day, probably an hour, 10 minutes. I didn't even know it was up, to tell you the truth. So I would have been really upset too if I was fighting for one of these. But the truth be told, there was no production limit on these. With mass retail items, they produce what? 200,000 of a certain item or whatever. 20,000, 50,000, we don't know how much. They produce what they feel they need to produce to make the profit. They push them out the door. It's a set amount. This, if 20,000 people would have backed the barge, there to be 20,000 barges in existence. So in the case of Unicron, let's say somebody wants to come by and buy 13 of them to speculate and to scalp later. That means that that scalper is responsible for 13 of them more getting created. So when it hits 8,000, it's going to hit the 8,000 mark. When it hits the 8,000 mark and 10 scalpers jump in, each buying 10, there's 8,100. There's another 100 that exist in the world for in the future collectors to buy and have opportunities to buy. And as we all know, the more they get produced, overall the prices, it's less rare, so the price should come down or not blow up as much. In the case with the sell barge, at 5,000 sell barges, there would be a whole lot higher price on it than where we're sitting right now with 8810, which actually is closer to 10,000 according to what some of the representatives say that were produced, but we don't have those true numbers. So lastly, who pays the late tax? Well, anybody who doesn't jump on the pre-orders, anybody who doesn't jump on buying right away. If you want to stop and wait and see and smell the roses, then you are taking that chance that you have to pay a late tax. And in the case of these combiners, with the Fans Toys combiners, I don't want to pay a late tax. So I'm buying them, even though I have zero intention of ever displaying any Fans Toys combiner in combine mode, because Zeta and X-Transbots got me covered. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe. Time to hear him hang out.